Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live session, your guide to virtual selling readiness. My name is Elay Cohen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SalesHood. Super excited to be sharing with you some insights, some tips. What you're going to walk away with today is a guide to up-level your sales process, to up-level all the sales training that you're doing, and to up-level how you're reinforcing with manager coaching, how you are going to up-level all three of those key disciplines of your sales enablement practice, how you're going to up-level them to embrace virtual selling. You know, the pandemic has dramatically changed sales forever, and for the good. I think what's happened in the world is we have now entered in a phase where we don't have to travel for every sales meeting. The efficiency that we have when it comes to working with our buyers is now heightened. And so this is a positive of the pandemic. We've just digitized our buyers' journeys and our sales process. And the result is we are now able to compress and shorten sales cycles. This is the reality of what's happened in 2020. And so as we look to 21, we need to ask ourselves, are our teams ready to embrace this new way of selling, virtual selling? How ready are our teams? How ready are our sales cultures? How ready are our managers? And I'll argue that in some areas, many of you are ready, but in a lot of other areas, this is a moment where we can dramatically improve what we're doing. And so what we've done is created this live session to provide you with some ideas, but this is a conversation that is going to be ongoing. And so it is proven that folks that embrace virtual selling and that have successfully digitized their sales process and enabled their people and have managers reinforcing and have buyers that are engaging in a new virtual digital way, they are seeing shortened sales cycles. And that means what? It means we're closing deals faster, we're hitting quota faster. So there is a lift happening in the industry. And check it out. These are some of our customers, and they're amazing, all of them. These are all great companies. They're all embracing virtual selling. What's amazing about this slide and all of these companies and the stats is these are stats taken from conversations with them in their earnings calls in the last 90 days. Look at Yext. They've been able to lift new product ACV for their amazing Yext answers in the last 90 days, lift sales by 50%. Tanium, amazing year-over-year revenue growth, 50%. Congratulations. I know Aaron's on the call. You're doing great work with your team. You've embraced virtual onboarding as a way to do it. Sage released additional earnings today, a great outcomes. Domo, look at that, 25% increase in new account growth. What's happening is companies that are embracing and leaning into virtual selling are seeing great results. Now the question is, what are they doing? What they're doing is they are up-leveling their sales process, up-leveling their sales training, and doing more sales coaching. That's what's happening. And so what I want to do now is give you some examples of what you can do inside of your business and what you can do inside of your businesses so that way you can ultimately achieve those same great outcomes. We want you to see those great growth outcomes that those amazing companies have achieved. So this starts right now with, let's start with the sales process, because I think you got to have a foundation of excellence when it comes to your sales motion. And whether you call it a sales process or whether you call it a buyer's journey, I think what's most important is what are you doing to document the conversations, the coaching, and the content, and how are you applying a virtual selling lens to every step in your sales process? So critical. Like, for example, what you see here is a simplified 4-step sales process or a buyer's journey: prospecting, diagnosing, prescribing, and gaining commitment. Super simple, right? Some of you may have 8 steps, 6 steps. I'm not sitting here saying 4 steps are the right steps. I'm just saying, for the purposes of this conversation around up-leveling your sales process to embrace virtual selling, we want to give you a guide. Here are some areas for you to think about. Like, number 1, prospecting. The best are doing video-based prospecting messages, right? they're sending those videos, they're quick 30-second little clips. It just adds that extra little touch. We're also seeing video messaging being used across the sales process as well. Thank you emails, summary emails. So encourage you to start thinking about that and thinking about how are you coaching your teams to lean into that part of an enhanced, digitized, virtual communication mechanism. And we can help with SalesHood. We've got an amazing way to do that. Diagnosing. So let me talk about diagnosing. When you think about virtual selling, what are the tools, what content, what prep are you, and how are you enabling your people today so they can be better at diagnosing? That means discovery, asking questions, kind of that early stage, early funnel activity, right? And so meeting prep, meeting facilitation, questioning skills, all this stuff is so critical. But guess what? It's amplified now. It's magnified. We're talking about 10x more. We got to be better prepared. We got to be masters of facilitating meetings, and we got to enable our people to be good at it. And we need to be thinking innovatively and creatively about relationship building. Right? These are things that we need to think about, and we need to start asking ourselves, what's changed? And how are we going to enable our people to adapt to these changes? And what tools are we going to provide our people so they can be better at and compressing those sales cycles, right? So for example, meeting prep, right? It's even more important today to prep our people, to prep our internal teams and to prep our champions before we show up for that meeting. I am going to walk you through how to turn meetings into momentum. I've got 6 very, very powerful tips I'm going to share with you in a second. Again, I'm trying to just give you some insights on ways that you can think about your sales process. How are you updating the prescribing phase? When you're sharing solutions, doing demos, are you sharing video proposals? Are you doing collaborative document sharing? How comfortable are your people opening up a Google Doc or whatever tool you're using for document sharing, Quip if you're using Salesforce, whatever it is. But the ability, and there's a technical ability, and then there is a skill ability, a competency around being able to share documents, right? Hopefully what you're walking away with here, we all are very comfortable with e-signatures, right? Look at that. That's, the DocuSigns, the hello signs, the echo signs, right? Like we've been doing that forever. We're now applying that kind of focus across the entire sales process is now digitized and virtual. And so my takeaway for you here is the following. What I want you to think about is take your sales process, similar to this, and then start listing out what are the things that you can do to help your teams be better at virtual selling at every step in the sales process. That was the purpose of this step right here that I wanted to go a little deep with you on this. And let me pause for a second and let me see if there are any questions. I think feel free to ask questions from marketing. Thank you. And let's go into the chat. And Team Tanium crushing it. I love it. No questions so far, but thank you. Keep it up. And just for Sam, we can cut all that out when we do the recording. All right. So up-leveling the sales process. That was the first thing. Now, in the context of the sales process, what becomes even more important is the meeting. Like that meeting that we take for granted, because guess what? We're not flying around anymore. We're not meeting people on site. The pandemic is virtual selling is not going away. It's here to stay. So we need to now elevate how we're running our meetings. And so I've got 6 ways to turn meetings into momentum, because I believe a meeting that is well executed, it can dramatically shorten sales cycles. And, personally, there was a meeting that we were running in the summertime, and this is when this came to light. We had a meeting, it was for a really big deal, and I'm sharing a personal story, and it's okay because I think it's important to understand that we got to learn from mistakes we make. And we executed this meeting amazing, right? I thought we did. We prepared the slides, we had the slides, we went through the slides, but what we didn't do is we didn't actually have a conversation when we delivered the slides. And so we weren't able to drive the momentum that we needed to drive so that we can really understand what's inside the hearts and minds of the people that we're meeting with. And so what I have here for you right now are 6 ways to turn meetings into momentum from personal experience over the last 12 months of meetings that we've run well and meetings that we haven't run well. But these tips are Oh, you'll give us feedback in terms of what you think of the tips. But before I go into the tips, I just want to level set. First, sales meetings 101, right? Let's just make sure that this is an assumption. You're researching, your teams are great at researching the companies and the people, that they are connecting on LinkedIn ahead of time, that every meeting that they schedule has a clear agenda, that they're putting the agendas in the invites. They got all their technical setups that are great, right? They got the lighting, they're dressing for success, the background, whether you're using a live background like I'm using, or whether you're using a virtual Zoom background, whatever it is, right? You got to have all the technical stuff sorted ahead of time. You got to make sure people have access to the links and stuff like that. You got to do agenda confirmations. You got to prep your team. You can't show up to these meetings and not prepping your team. You got to have clear next steps. You got to do meeting summaries same day or after. And then again, you can't show up wearing t-shirts. You know, I can't show up wearing t-shirts to meetings and baseball caps. You got to be wearing collars, dress for success. I was just on a previous call and the CRO said there's a mental health capacity. You got to really be focused in on showing up for work. And just because you're working from home doesn't mean you're not dressing for success. And there's something great about kind of putting on a shirt and showing up to a meeting and being professional. So this stuff is the basics. Now let's take you to the next level. So number one, what you want to do to have meetings be conversational, you want to get people talking. That's a mindset thing. You might have 20, 30 slides that you want to go through, which is too many, by the way, but you may have a number of slides you want to go through. It's less important that you go through every slide, and it's more important that you're actually talking with the people that are on the call. You got 6 to 8 people, you're collaborating, you're talking. You know, what we want you to do is to create a space where you can have a conversation. And so that's a mindset thing, and it's not always easy. And I'm going to give you some tips in a minute. What you want to do is you want to speak to people before, during, and after meetings as well. So like, here's what we lose from not being able to show up to a lobby and meet in a conference room. You know, those 5 or 10 minutes when you're sitting with your champion, you're kind of connecting all the devices, you're getting ready, folks haven't shown up yet, and you're strategizing. Those 5 or 10 minutes, that's gold, right? But you don't want to lose it. So if you have a big meeting scheduled for Friday, you and your champion, and you should be enabling your teams to be thinking this way, and you should be holding them accountable for doing this. They should be showing up. They should be doing pre-meetings with their champions the day before. Okay, let's just do a dry run. Let's make sure we're okay. Let's make sure roles, walk me through the different people, help me out. It doesn't have to be a 60-minute meeting, but you want to do that meeting before. Now, guess what? I also love in-person meetings when everybody leaves and you're in there with the champion and you close the door and you go, all right, how do we do? Right? Are you doing those kind of debrief meetings as well? So you want to get people talking during the meeting, but also get your champions and sponsors and influencers talking before and after. You can coach your teams, right? If you are an enablement leader, this is something you can coach your teams on when you're doing your sales process training. If you're a seller on the call right now, listen to this. Hopefully you're embracing this. If you're a sales manager, you should be reinforcing this on your forecast calls and pipeline calls. And so remember, it's a conversation. It's a conversation, not a pitch. Number 2, so in the spirit of asking questions and having a conversation, you got to be extra curious these days. And what I want you to start thinking about is, and this perhaps is a message for product marketing, what I want folks to think about is when you're creating your awesome pitch slides and when your marketing team and your product marketing folks are giving you these slides, what you want to do is more than just learn the pitch. You want to have transitional questions that you can ask that are tied to every slide. And so every slide should have a question in the notes. So your sellers, they know how to talk about the slide, and then how does this compare to how you're doing things today? What would be the impact to your business if you were to realize the same outcomes? Right? Those are a couple questions. You've got your questions. Your people know your questions, but do they know to ask the questions while they're delivering a presentation? That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get you to rethink some of your assumptions around your sales process and the sales coaching and your sales training, so that way you can up-level how your team is showing up so you can win more deals, compress those sales cycles, right? Because, hey, you have a slide and your teams have been trained to share a discovery summary slide of everything that they learned, right? They should be getting feedback, right? So plant those questions, have your people understand those questions, and then when you're certifying your people, when your teams are practicing their pitches, whether they are for a first call pitch or for a proposal pitch, guess what? You should be practicing. Practice, 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 because it's not natural to kind of ask questions. And this is a new way of selling. And it's a tactic that I believe the best sellers are doing. And I can assure you, those companies that you saw before, they're practicing their pitches, they're applying these principles, and they're winning more deals. And that's why they're having those great results. So send slides ahead of time. It's so critical that you are giving the slides to your team that you're going to meet with, to the buyers ahead of time. Why? Because they will be better prepared and they'll appreciate you for it, right? I think there's no reason why you have to hold back. If there are a couple of slides you don't want to include, that's okay. Send the slides ahead of time. You'll have a richer conversation, and they'll because guess what? They've already done all the research. They know your competitors. They've already they've looked through your website. So get them closer to being able to make a decision. And the more information you can give them about your product and about your solution and about your offering, the better you're going to be. I love this tactic, and don't send it 5 minutes before. That doesn't help anyone. What we want you to do is send it at least 24 hours before, so folks have some time to review. And it's great, right? I think you'll be able to spend less time talking about the presentation, more time talking about the feedback on the presentation. Remember, what we're trying to do here is get more conversation to happen. And in the spirit of presentations, we at SalesHood, we're a sales enablement platform, so excited about the value and the impact that we're having in the industry. Just a quick moment, I want to highlight that with SalesHood, you're able to share presentations. And so you can do that. If you're a SalesHood customer, you should have someone from my team give you a demo, but it's amazing because you can share a presentation, share a video, and then you can track if folks have opened it. And Power School is an amazing customer. Chelsea, there's a great story that's available. And I love this because this is virtual selling. And this became generally available about a couple months ago. So we're so excited about the ability for sellers to share presentations with their buyers, and pre-meeting and post-meeting. Pre and post. Number 4, engage buyers with chatter polls. Notice at the beginning, I was asking folks where they're from. That's okay, right? Get your team to train folks when they join the call. Hey, share where you're from. That's an easy way to get people comfortable using the chat on the call. You're also training them to say you're going to use the chat. You can ask them a question in the chat. What do you think? And that's a great way to engage folks. You can also use polls. I love using polls. I think they're fabulous. I think polls are a great way to kind of get the pulse. For example, in the sales process, what you can do is if you've got a list of priorities that the customer shared with you, right? Here are your priorities. You could put those priorities in a poll and get everybody on the call to stack rank them. Pick which one is most important to you. That's one way you get consensus very quickly around. And that's just an example, right? Again, we're trying to show you ways to up-level your sales process, your sales coaching, and your sales training. So that way you can be more ready for virtual selling. So ultimately, you'll be able to close more deals faster, and you'll be able to compress those sales cycles. And then number 5, leave time for feedback. So critical, leave time for feedback. 60-minute meeting, you got 5-10 minutes of intros at the beginning. You are not presenting for the next 45. Maybe your presentation is 30 minutes and you're leaving that 15-minute window of time for feedback. Because again, you want to turn meetings into momentum. If you don't know what your buyers on the other side of those calls are thinking and what they're feeling and their sentiment about your solution, the presentation, then what are you doing? You need to hear what they're saying and what they're doing. And the only way to do it is to give them a space, ask a question, and then just sit back. It might take them 10 or 20 seconds. That awkward silence is okay. It's not a bad thing. It means they are thinking, and it means they are collecting their thoughts and they're digesting all this great information that you've just shared with them. Leave time for feedback. And then finally, like every professional seller, you're summarizing next steps, which I think is so critical. Here's what we learned. Here's what we accomplished. Here's what we talked about. Here's some next steps. That's Sales 101, but it's even more important these times. And then something I love doing when we're talking about next steps, you can pop open a document, Google Doc, whatever it is, and a nice blank document, and you can start, all right, what does everyone think we should do next? And have everybody share, and you're scripting what people are saying in front of them. It's powerful, super, super powerful. So those are the 6 tips to turn meetings into momentum. let me pause and let me see if there are questions that make sense for me to address right now before we move into the back half of this. So loving all the tips. Thank you, Andrew from Cincinnati. I love it. So there's hey, Melissa, in our pitch deck, we've even made transition slides that are the question. I love it, right? Amazing. Seem like strategies that work best with a large audience, like in a webinar. So it's interesting, Craig. I think these are strategies that can work with 5 to 10 people as well. And it doesn't always have to be. The thing is, the salesperson who's facilitating needs to master the skills around running the poll, doing the chat, going back and forth. And so sometimes having a couple people there together makes a lot of sense. So the AE and the SC collaborating, and one person's looking at the chat feed, the other person is doing this. But I think I don't believe chats and polls are exclusive to large audiences. I think it's a great way to get consensus even with a smaller group. And poll on priorities. Thank you, Melissa. And so, hey, Bob, nice to see you. I love it. Call on someone to get them engaged, right? I think calling on someone to get them engaged, right? You should always have your champion. So that should be your go-to. And if you've done the debrief at a time, they understand the questions. You can always get your champion to pepper in some questions or get them to call on someone too. Thank you for the feedback, everyone. Super grateful. And so again, what we're trying to do is give you some ideas around up-leveling, how you are embracing virtual selling in your sales process, in your sales coaching, and then also in your sales training. So the last thing I'll share with you here is, you know what? You and your teams, their mindset when they are starting a meeting should be, they want to learn as much as they can in every meeting, as opposed to pitch as much as they can. So, and that is coachable. And that is something that can be reminded. And that is something that can be reinforced by managers. It can be reinforced in the coaching notes, in the speaker notes index. It can be reinforced in sales aids that you give people when they are using the assets and the tools that you're giving them. So I need to remind myself all the time, right? That and I think this is a great one. I love it. And so now the skills required to master remote selling, these are new skills. And so we've partnered with Winning by Design. So grateful for the partnership. And we've launched the Remote Selling Mastery Coaching Membership. It covers the sales process. It's got about 40 video lessons, 30 role play exercises. Every SalesHood customer gets the Readiness. So all the technical setups, running meetings, all that stuff's available in your library right now. And if you're interested in exploring the rest of it, you can engage with someone on my team. But this is how you can scale getting your teams to master remote selling and be great at virtual selling and dramatically shorten sales cycles. Super, super pumped about this partnership and about this amazing offering. And so in addition to sales training, I want to take a moment and talk about coaching. Everything I've talked about right now, I think there's general consensus that, yeah, we got to do all of it. And great, you can build the assets, you can build the tools, you can do the onboarding, you can do the training. But if you're not going that last mile and creating coaching reinforcement huddles, which is something that we do at SalesHood inside of our platform. We're so excited about it. Coaching huddles has been with us from day one. You want to create these meetings in a box, these coaching reinforcement huddles, packaging all this great information and making it available to your manager so they can reinforce these great lessons, right? So for example, you can create coaching huddles around deal prep. You can create coaching huddles around proposal prep. You can create coaching huddles around all the skills and training that I talked about. Dave Apple is one of the best in the industry, and he's a customer of ours at Sage, and he's got coaching huddles that he's running on a regular basis with his teams. And what he's able to do is able to replicate success at scale with all of his teams because he's running these coaching huddles on a regular basis. So encourage you to think about your enablement strategy in terms of sales process, sales training, and sales coaching, and start thinking about what are the coaching must-haves that you want your managers to be great at, and what assets are you putting in front of them so they can do the reinforcement coaching. And I know Dave would love to speak to any of you around his experience as well. And here's SalesHood. We are so excited about our purpose-built all-in-one sales enablement platform. We're all about helping companies elevate and achieve amazing revenue outcomes. How do they do it? By practice, with coaching, with selling, and then correlating. We're all about helping companies get on message. We're all about helping companies get aligned. We're all about helping companies do better coaching and do manager coaching and peer coaching. And we're all about helping companies, especially with that presentations I showed you, sell better and sell faster. But most importantly, we just launched a correlation engine, which enables you to correlate all this great activity with performance data. That's how we're able to measure outcomes and prove value. We'd love to work with each and every one of you. So you can engage with us and do the virtual selling readiness assessment. You can ask someone from my team to kind of give you a tour of the remote selling coaching membership. And we can also provide you a more hands-on customized demo and give you a demo of presentations and coaching models and anything you want to see with our platform. I am so excited about 21. I believe we're at a point where virtual selling is here to stay, and really we're on a mission to help each and every one of you be even better at delivering amazing experiences to your buyers so you can ultimately achieve your growth goals. And thank you very much for attending